Hello and welcome. I'm Sarah, professional software engineer and hobbyist game designer. I make games under the name Anagrams Productions. And here we are, another week, another stream. Before I forget, I want to talk about a thing called Extra Life. So Extra Life is an organization that partners with the Children's Miracle Network hospitals, and basically you have these gamers all across the United States and maybe even Canada who pledge to play 24 hours worth of games to raise money for um, Children's Miracle Network hospitals. So this year, I will be playing games, 24 hours worth of games across 2 days because I am not young anymore. And I'll be doing that November 1st and November 2nd, 2024, obviously. So, if you are free during that time, please stop by and join us. I will be raising money for Seattle's Children's Hospital this year. I have done Extra Life in the past. It's always a blast, always a good time. So, really excited to do that. And, I know that the times are hard. Everybody is struggling financially right now. Money's tight, especially with everything happening in the country and the world. But if you can spare a few dollars to help sick kids afford life-saving treatment, I really appreciate it. There are links to donate on my Twitch profile, or I'll try to remember to include a link in the description. Extra Life, raising money for sick kids, is especially relevant to today's game, which is Intensive Scare Units by azureXtwilight. I saw that name and I was like, why does that sound so familiar? Like, that looks really, really familiar. Like, I used to be friends with this person or something. And it's because I remember them from their Fantasia days. Which came out around the same time that I was working on memoirs. So good times. Very, very nostalgic. But very different type of game from what we're playing today. Yeah, let's get started. Maybe. It always takes longer than I expect it to come up. But I haven't figured out a good way to, like, not transition to the gaming screen before it comes up, so but it's fine. It's fine. Also, just warning you that today is another nose itchy day. So, sorry for that in advance. I'm gonna try not to stop for it today. We'll just move on and pretend it's not a thing. Alrighty. As usual, let me know if you can't hear me. And we'll get started. There was a warning. Sorry, another like fake out. Let's get started. That's also very common on this channel. Before we get started, there were warnings at the beginning of the game. Photosensitivity warning, epilepsy warning. So if that kind of thing bothers you, don't watch this video. I will when I upload this to YouTube, I'll try to tag any of those areas, or add little timestamps so that there's at least a little bit of warning, maybe. All right, now for reals, let's get started. Sigh. Making sure that I actually unmuted my mic. I think we're good. All right. Oh, I should mention, this isn't necessarily based on a, this isn't necessarily based on a true story, but it's, definitely based on real life experiences, in the medical field in general. Alright. It's my first night shift during residency today. Mom and Dad had always wanted me to follow in their footsteps, to become a specialist. Mom was a pediatrician, and Dad was a neurosurgeon. I followed their wishes and got accepted to residency, but all I want is to get a good night's shift. I can't say I had high expectations for my first night shift in the ICU, but if I'd known it would be this gloomy, I might have tried to get more than 3 hours of sleep. Yeah, that's a given. Side note, I think it's really interesting, the just like subtle animation on the character here. From the moment I walked through the doors, it felt like I'd stepped into a different world. The lights are dim, the beeping is constant, and the whole atmosphere feels like it's one bad day away from a horror movie. Especially when y'all look like that. Look at those dark circles. I found Satria, who is supposed to be 1 year my senior, in the staff room, looking like he just crawled out of a zombie movie. Yeah, for real. He was practically a zombie, with dark circles so deep they could double his eye sockets. His scrubs were a mess, and he had this dazed, hollow look on his face. Good evening, Senior. My name is Leah. I know, drop it. Just be casual with me. Oh. So I think it's interesting. Just an observation. She's got this subtle animation on her, like she's breathing or something. He doesn't. He's just flat and static. I wonder if that's a choice. I wonder if that means something. Or if it's just, they ran out of time. This is a Game Jam game. I guess I should mention that. This game was made for Spooktober, which is a month-long game jam that takes place in September, and then during October is rating. So it's a competitive game jam. So, tight timeline. So I would not be surprised to see some things that could use a little more polish, post jam polish. You're the first year resident, right? Ate your dinner already? Yes. Good. You'll need all the extra calories. That's not a good sign. Great start. Anyway, welcome. Oh hey, there's a smile, or an attempt at one. Satria doesn't give up the seniority vibe in residency, unlike some of my peers. I had been told the residency is like being part of some medieval hierarchy where you're the lowly maid and everyone else is a noble with a stick up there. Well, you get the idea. But then there's Satria. I mean, the guy actually seemed nice? Yeah, I know. It's almost hard to believe. I'm supposed to do a night round with the junior a shift before me. Do you know where they are? Satria blinked at me like I just interrupted a really intense daydream. They went home. He just sounded like he'd been gargling gravel. wonder if I'd be like that after a year of residency. Oh, is everything okay? Anything I can get you? He managed a half-hearted grin that did nothing to reassure me. Nah, just one of those nights. Anyway, this means you'll be doing the night rounds with me. Let me explain everything, kid. Listen well, because I'm not repeating anything for you. Alright. Here's the deal with night shifts. It's a whole different beast. We're understaffed, so it's basically just you, me, and, well, one nurse tonight. Wait, one nurse? For the entire ICU? He waved his hand as if it was nothing. Who needs nurses when they're residents, am I right? We're stretched thin, and it's a bit of a juggling act. ICU's usually got more hands on deck, but tonight, it's skeleton crew. So expect things to get a little interesting. I glanced around the ICU, trying to picture the lone nurse trying to handle everything. I'll do my best. Good. If you're lucky, she'll be able to cover all the bases. But don't count on it. We'll need to pitch in wherever we can. So I'd like you to take charge of the patient bells. Patient bell duty? What does that involve? It's exactly what it sounds like. You'll be the one answering the patient's call bells. Every time a patient hits their call button, it's your job to respond. It's one of those tasks that gets handed off to the newbies because it's... well, it's hella boring, but crucial. Amazing. I'd already been dreading the prospect of juggling everything else, and now I had to deal with constant interruptions from call bells too. Here's how it works. Each patient has a call button next to the bed. When they press it, an alarm goes off at the nurse's station. Well, it would if we had more than one nurse on tonight. So you'll need to be the one who gets up and checks on them. Understood. Alright, Leah, let's do a quick round so you know what you're dealing with tonight. Interesting animation, Thatcher led me through the dimly lit corridors of the ICU. He stepped in front of the main nurse's station and gestured for me to follow as he began his impromptu tour. We started at room 101. This is Angela Liam, 7 years old, recovering from post-Deng shock syndrome. She's stable, but still needs monitoring. Sweet kid, but she's been through a lot. As for pediatric patients, you deal with the patients mostly. Or the parents, mostly. I peered through the glass window of the room, seeing a tiny figure nestled in the bed. Her mom sitting anxiously beside her. Her mom looks kind of familiar. Interesting detail. Sandria led me to room 104 next. Here we have Mrs. Selvina, 47 years old. She's on a ventilator because her liver cancer has metastasized everywhere. Her condition is critical, so keep an eye on her. We can't get a hold of her family yet, so no DNR. I glanced at the room where a ventilator hissed rhythmically, and Mrs. Selvina lay still. Next, we moved to room 108. Yeesh! As we walked past room 108, a loud crash jolted me, followed by the sound of someone or something thrashing around like a wild animal. What was that? This is Mr. X. We basically found him on the streets. He's in delirium, in pain, and we found some injectable drugs in his belongings. Probably OD'd on something. I think something is crawling inside of him. A pain in the ass, really. That's such a, nonchalant response to that. I think something is crawling inside of him, but oh, he's just a pain in the ass. Just try to handle him with patience. Morphine every other hour or so. He'll let us know. So we're just gonna let him fight his imaginary demons in there? Are we sure they're imaginary? until he starts tearing the place apart. Then we sedate him. Anyway, you definitely need to keep this one in check. In bold. So you know what's important. Finally, we arrived at room 110. Mr. Joko Muliano, 75 years old. He had diabetic gangrene that caused septic shock and just had a leg amputation. He's in a rough spot and can be a little grumpy, but he's generally manageable. Sadria glanced at his watch and sighed. Shift starts at 9 p.m. and runs until 7 a.m. You've got a mix of serious cases and one that's going to test your patience. Try to keep track of their needs and be ready for anything. Got it. Any tips on how to deal with the patients while I'm at it? Sadria gave me a weary look. The usual. Be polite, be efficient, and try not to let them see how frazzled you are. The call bell might seem like a nuisance, but it's there for a reason. Keep an eye on the frequency of the calls. It might give you clues if something's wrong. He paused, as if considering whether to add more. Also, be prepared for the occasional strange request. It's the ICU after all. People and things here are usually not in their right state of minds. What do you mean? Yeah, you'll see. That's not ominous at all. Sadria looked like he was about to collapse on the spot. Just do your best, kid. We're all running on fumes, but we'll get through it. And if you need anything, well, try not to hesitate. Almost forgot, since we're working on an ICU, try to answer the patient bells as fast as you can, yeah? Fast and bold. Any call might be someone's life and death. I mean, you can't just undo your mistakes in real life, right? Is this game telling us we can't undo our mistakes? We can't roll back? As Sadria shuffled off to the doctor's call room, he moved so listlessly it was like he was gliding through the shadows. Seriously, the guy looked like he was part of the decor. I bet that's gonna be me after a year. I made my way to the nurse's station towards the patient bell call. The nurse on duty, who had been introduced to me as part of the skeleton crew for the night, was standing at the desk. She too has the subtle breathing animation. So, seriously, why didn't Sadria have the animation? Why was he stock still? Is that a hint? Is he literally a zombie? Is he undead? I think I read this already. She looked up as I approached, and my first impression was that her face was so pale she almost blended into the background. Yeah. She doesn't look any less like a zombie than the other guy, let's be honest. Like, when I saw, like, screenshots of this on the store page, I was like, she's the ghost, right? She's gotta be the ghost. I don't actually know if there's a ghost or not, but I know scary things happen. I know it's a scary one, I think. It's in the title. So it better be scary. Hello? I'm Leah, the new resident. Just checking in. Did she just, like, glitch? Okay. ... The nurse didn't respond. Instead, she just stared at me with vacant eyes and nodded. Maybe she and I are the ghosts. Maybe I was right, and she is the ghost, and my character is a ghost too. It was as if she was too tired or overwhelmed to offer any kind of greeting. Alrighty then. I'll be around if you need anything, or if there's any news. But no reply, just silent nodding. It was like talking to a very pale, very silent mannequin. That's not unsettling at all. The chill in the room seemed to grow thicker with every second, and the silence was starting to feel like it was pressing in on me. I turned and headed back towards the patient rooms, trying not to let the oppressive atmosphere get to me. Did the lights just flicker? Probably my imagination. The ICU was dark, eerie, and every sound seemed to amplify the sense of unease. It's like Satria and the nurse were just the icing on the cake of this unsettling shift. I took a deep breath and braced myself. This is gonna be a long night. I stood at the nurse's station, all eyes on the patient bell monitor. It was one of those moments where you try to pretend you're not staring, but it's impossible to look away. The monitor was supposed to make my life easier, but right now it was feeling like a bad omen. Yeah, I'm thinking about, like, the high pressure. Like, even as he was just describing it, I was like, oh no, I'm not ready for this. I'm not ready for this. What if I don't get to them fast enough and they die? And it'll be all my fault. There's a reason that I do not work in healthcare. Oh my goodness. Uh-oh. Out of nowhere, the first bell rang. Not just once, but 3 times, simultaneously. My heart skipped a beat as I glanced at the monitor. Rooms 108 and 110 were flashing with alarms. Standard fare for an ICU, I suppose. But then... Room 112. The monitor showed its bell ringing too. Room 112 was empty. Oh man. Shoot. I don't remember which rooms were what. Oh, I was too late! Oh no! Oh no! I heard Satri and the nurse rush to the other rooms. Better luck next time. I stood at the nurse's station again when the bells for room 101, 103, and room 104 all started ringing at once. Not this again! Room 103 was empty. Completely and utterly empty. So why the hell was the bell ringing? Room 104 had Mrs. Salvina, who was unconscious and paraplegic. She could ring the bell even if she wanted to. I glanced at the nurse, who was still standing there, eerily mute, as if the chaos around us didn't even register. What the hell is going on with this night shift? Satria, my ever-reliable senior, just let out a sarcastic laugh. Well, well, it seems like there's a welcome party for you. I pressed the intercom button on room 101, half expecting something out of a horror movie to greet me. Instead, Angela's mother's voice crackled through the speaker. Doctor, Angela's IV drip is running out. Could you come and replace it? I'll be right there. Relieved that it was something straightforward, finally, I grabbed a fresh IV bag and made my way to the room. But as soon as I walked in, the atmosphere felt off. Not again. Angela's mother, Mrs. Liam, was standing by the window, her expression a mix of worry and something else I couldn't quite describe. Her daughter seemed to be asleep peacefully in her bed. Excuse me, Mrs. Liam. I'm Dr. Leah. I'll be replacing your daughter's IV drip. Doctor, wait. I'm sorry to trouble you, but there's been knocking on the window. It's been happening for a while now, but when I look, there's no one there. Oh, probably just the wind, ma'am? She just looked back at me. Or I could check for you. I moved to the window, opening the curtain, peering out into the darkness. Nothing. Just the faint reflection of the room behind me and the dark sky beyond. I shook the latch just to be sure, and it was securely locked. It's safe, ma'am. Nothing out there. She just gave me an uneasy smile. As I started to replace the IV drip, something about her tugged at the back of my mind. I felt like I'd seen her before. Are you on social media or something, Mrs. Liam? Your surname is familiar. Yes. Yes, I'm a Tic Tac model, Veronica Liam. Are there models on TikTok? Is that a thing? Sorry, I'm a millennial. I don't use TikTok. She didn't respond, just turned back to the window. She was holding her left wrist, and for a moment I thought I saw some bruising marks on them. As I finished up with the IV, the unease in the room seemed to thicken. It seems like I shouldn't have asked. Just press the bell if you need anything else. Angela's mom nodded again, but her gaze remained fixed on the window. It's as if she was waiting for something or someone that wasn't there. I quickly left the room, sighing to myself. Feeling thirsty, I wandered into the doctor's lounge. Satria was already there, leaning against the counter while stirring 2 cups of coffee. He handed me one with a half smirk. Thanks. Hang in there, kid. This is just your first shift. Hey, this is what I signed up for. Easier for you to say. You're one of the blue bloods, aren't you? Everyone knows about you. What was it? Mom's a pediatrician, dad's a neurosurgeon. Yeah, but that doesn't mean it's a walk in the park. They're always comparing me to them, telling me how much harder I need to work. I didn't even want to be a doctor anyway. Still, must be nice though, having parents who made things so much easier. Wish I had that kind of leg up. My family put everything into getting me here. Now it's on me to make sure it's worth it. I looked at him, really looked, and for a second, I caught a glimpse of the weight he carried. Well, I guess we're both just trying not to mess it up. Yeah, something like that. I leaned back, taking a longer sip of the coffee, letting the silence sit for a bit. So, why'd you decide to be a doctor? Honestly, for my parents. It's not like I had some big passion for it or anything. They're not well off, and, well, it felt like the only way to give back. Really? Yeah. I mean, they sacrificed so much to get me here. It's on me to make it count. Plus, they're not going to be able to help my sister much longer. I figured I could chip in with her uni loans when I'm out of residency, you know? That's heavy. Yeah, well, it's not like I can quit now. But why emergency medicine? Of all the specialties, you chose the one where people are literally running in and out nonstop. I didn't exactly choose it. It was the only one available through the scholarship I got. I had to take what I could get. Oh, so this isn't your first choice? I mean, it's fine. I don't hate it or anything. But if I'm being honest, it was never really about what I wanted. It was just about making sure I could get through med school without bankrupting my parents. Sadria stretched a bit before grabbing his things. Anyway, I'd better get back. The nurse seems inexperienced. Or dead. Just before he left, he paused at the doorway and looked back at me. Residency's brutal, kid. There's still time to leave if you don't want to be here. Hang in there, okay? Before I could respond, he gave me a small smile and disappeared down the hall. Ring! The clock struck midnight and the ICU erupted into chaos. Every damn bell on the intercom rang out like crazy. I turned to Satria, his face just as pale as mine. What's happening? I have no idea. It's like the whole damn place is losing it. The ringing bells drowned out our voices, and I was struggling to speak. I felt the urge to run, but from what? From our helpless patients? Then I noticed the nurse, the one who hadn't spoken a word since we started. Is this a drill? Oh, she finally spoke! Oh, so she was human after all. Thank God. My exact thought. A drill at this goddamn hour? The nurse took a step back, looking ready to faint. I don't know. I'm a new employee too. Nobody told me about this. Leah, just press the button. Huh? Just answer any intercom. Maybe it'll stop. Roger that. Oh my gosh. As I was about to press the intercom button, I stopped in my tracks, a spill creeping up my spine. I have no clue what button I pressed, by the way. They said to press any button, so I just chose one. I don't remember which rooms were which. That room was empty. Of course I chose one of the empty ones. No patient, no reason for that bell to be ringing. I turned to look at Satria, expecting him to react, but he just frowned and shook his head. Sigh. The room is empty, right? Yeah, it is. Could be a glitch in the system. Happens sometimes. His casual tone didn't convince me, or him, judging by the way he glanced down the hallway. My heart started to race as I stared into the darkness. Do you want me to check it out? Knock yourself out. If you see anything spooky, remember to scream so we can all run away. Great, just what I needed. A sarcastic senior and a haunted hospital. I approached room 112 like I was wading through thick fog. When I finally reached the door, I opened it as loudly as possible, almost shouting. Excuse me. The room was pitch black. It's just an empty room. Yeah, but it's like, it's not a great room. Let's see if I can look at this more here. Like, that doesn't look like a good room, right? TV's cracked, cracks in the window. Cracks in the window. Like something was knocking on it. Like in the other room. And there's just like all these smears on it. Like I can't tell if it's dirt or blood or what. And these long streaks here. This is not a good hospital room. No big deal, just an empty, possibly haunted room. My hand fumbled for the light switch, and when I flicked it on, the lights turned on, revealing... And suddenly, it's a perfectly normal room. Absolutely nothing. The room was exactly as it should be. Empty, sterile, and completely devoid of life. And yet, the bell call was still ringing, even though there was no one there to press it. Holy shit. I quickly stepped back, slamming the door shut behind me. I hurried back to Satria, and he looked as unimpressed as ever, that bastard. Well, he didn't even bother looking up from his coffee. There's nothing there, but the bell still... Satria finally looked at me, his expression darkening just a bit. Just keep an eye on it. Sometimes these things happen. Or, you know, we could just pretend it didn't. Up to you. I did notice that I'm pretty sure I clicked on 105, but it said 112. Was the room that we went into. I'll forgive it though, because I'm not. I'm pretty sure I clicked 105, but I don't know that for sure. Maybe I misclicked. Who knows? He didn't elaborate, and I didn't ask. The night shift's still a long ways to go. 3 bells ring out at once. Room 108, room 101, and room 105. I groaned. Room 108 was Mr. X, who was convinced someone was crawling under his skin. Room 101, Angela and her tic-tac famous mom with the mysterious knocking. Room 105, empty. Perfect. I pressed the intercom button on room 101, and it was Mrs. Liam again. Her voice sounded even more urgent. Dr. Leah, there's knocking again. It's fast, like someone's trying to get in. Please, can you come? Of course there is. When I entered, the room was dim, with just the faint glow of the monitoring equipment. Mrs. Veronica Liam was sitting beside Angela's bed, her face even paler than the last I saw her. Doctor, I'm sorry for bothering you, but it's been happening more frequently. The knocking, it's almost like it's demanding to be let in. As if on cue, the sound started again. Sharp, rapid knocks that seemed to rattle the window. I took a deep breath and went to the window. Here we go again. I got distracted. I feel like the music kind of went into this like discordant, like I'm not crazy, right? Like it just keeps getting more and more out of tune. I pulled it open, half expecting to see something or someone on the other side. Once again, there was nothing. The knocking had stopped immediately as well. It's fine, ma'am. There's nothing out there. Mrs. Liam shook her head, her eyes welling up with tears. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm losing it. I've been so stressed out. My baby. I wasn't there for her. My job, with all the pressures on social media, kept me too busy. I abandoned her when she needed me most. Maybe it's just my guilt haunting me. For a moment, I wasn't sure what to say. An ICU where people died and went to critical condition seemed to feed on fear and guilt, twisting into something that could reach out and touch you in the dark. Well, what's important is you're here right by her side during this critical time, ma'am. She nodded, but her expression didn't change. The knocks had stopped, but the unease lingered. After excusing myself from room 101, I walked back to the nurse's station. The nurse was sitting there alone, tapping her pen on the desk, looking more bored than anything else. When she saw me approach, her eyes lit up. I wondered if she wanted to ask something about Mrs. Liam. You know Mrs. Liam? Who doesn't? She leaned in closer, about to spill some tea. Word is that Veronica Liam was having an affair with some famous actor. Big name in the industry. Her husband found out, and that's why he's nowhere to be seen. Left her to deal with everything on her own, even his own kid. Can you believe that? Oh, so that's why he's not here? Yep. Rumor has it the whole thing was a huge scandal, but they kept it hush-hush because, you know, reputation and all that. But everyone in the know, well, they know. And how do you know? I felt a sudden playful smack on the back of my head and turned around to see Satria grinning like a mischievous kid. No more gossiping on the job, Dr. Leah. You're supposed to be the professional here, or I'll tell on you. I rolled my eyes, rubbing the spot where he bonked me. Yes, sir. I was just, you know, gathering intel. Sure, let's call it that. He chuckled as he strolled down the hallway, disappearing into the shadows. Try to keep it classy, okay? So, no. Suddenly, room 108's door swung open violently. Mr. X, with his wild eyes and disheveled hair, burst out, throwing away all of his metal equipment as if it were poison. She's after me! Satria, we have to stop him! We chased after him, but he was too fast, too frantic. I have to run! I can make it! He bolted into an empty room, and before I could reach him, he lunged for the window. Sir, this is the 5th floor! He jumped, and I felt time stretch as I watched him fall. Oh my goodness. The sickening thud echoed through the halls, and the air filled with the haunting sounds of Gamlin and a Poseidon song, an eerie lullaby that seemed to mock the tragedy. I stood frozen, my heart pounding, when a woman's laughter pierced through the haunting melody. It was as if coming from the very depths of hell. No, no! The sight of his lifeless body sprawled on the ground below broke something inside me. My vision blurred and the world around me spun as I sank to the floor, darkness closing in. Then, suddenly, I was awake in my work attire, my heart racing in my own bedroom. Wait, where am I? The familiar walls surrounded me, and the night shift felt like a distant nightmare. I blinked, disoriented, and for a moment, I couldn't shake the feeling that it had all been real. I checked my phone, and it's the day before the night shift. It was supposed to be tomorrow. The hell? I frantically turned the TV on, and there it was on the news. Tragic news from the city hospital. Ganendra Sanjaya dies at 37. The once prominent CEO has jumped to his death from the hospital building. Sources say he was struggling with overwhelming debt from online loans, a situation he found himself entangled in after a series of poor financial decisions. My stomach twisted as the screen flashed images of him, smiling with a woman who looked like the Descendant woman. They looked so happy, so full of life. Now that joy was gone, leaving behind nothing but despair. Witnesses reported hearing strange sounds coming from the hospital moments before the incident. Authorities are investigating the circumstances surrounding his death. I stared at the screen, frozen. The laughter, the singing, it all came flooding back. I felt sick. Was this all connected to the night I had spent at the hospital? As the news continued, I couldn't shake the feeling that the nightmare wasn't truly over. Mr. X dies. Yeah, is that because I checked on the other lady instead of him? Oh, that was an ending. That was an ending. Okay. Oh my goodness. Okay. Well, that was short. Normally I only play to one ending, but okay. That was like less than an hour long. Let's try that again. Okay, we'll skip through some of this. This time I'm gonna try to... I'm writing this down this time, okay? I would be a terrible nurse, apparently, or a terrible doctor. She's not even a nurse. She's a resident to become like a full-on doctor. So 101 is the kid. But I was hoping to see more about the lady. Because there's clearly a story there with the mom. So the format of this visual novel is really, really interesting. They did a really interesting thing with, you know, typically in visual novels, you've got like the choices and each one leads to like doing a different thing, seeing a different scene, right? They did that very well here with like serious consequences and payoff. It's life or death here, you know? So because I prioritized seeing another scene with the mom, the other guy died. Which is not good. Not good. I will say that it felt very jarring. And I'm still not super sure what all happened there. Partially because it referred to some things that I didn't know what they were. And I don't think there's like a glossary or anything in this game. I'd be really surprised if there was. So I'm not sure like what all they were. I was just like, okay, dude threw himself out a window, like, okay, I get that. And he was like, oh, she's after me. And so there are definitely hints that like the lady that he was with at the end was the relevant lady, who, you know, who was after him. Obviously, you know, with a supernatural twist of some sort, but I'm not really quite sure what happened in that ending. Really sudden, really jarring, and then like she wakes up the day before her night shift. Like, wait, what? Wait, what? Okay, anyway. So 101 is the kid. And then room 104 is the lady on life support. (108) That was Mr. X. The game tried to warn me. Like, this one in particular, you really need to focus on this one. And I didn't. Now I know. Uh-huh. And 110 is the, amputee. Who I haven't actually, like, seen yet. Now this time I'm gonna be smart and save after talking to the nurse. Now I do think it's interesting when we first see the nurse here. She just, like, will not say a word. And she just stares with vacant eyes and nods silently. And does the weird glitchy thing. Very pale, very silent mannequin. This does not feel like the same lady who was, like, gossiping with us about, you know, Mrs. Liam. So that's a little suspicious. Okay, at some point here... Oh, maybe I can't save. I do recall that being a thing, that there's... like, there's automatic saves, but there's no... there's apparently no actual saving. I did try, I tried the usual, like, escape key, right click, like the things that normally open the game menu to be able to go to save, but nope, nothing. So, yeah, okay. Okay. I guess I'll just have to skip through all that every time. But this time I was smart. Don't ignore Mr. X, okay, okay. .108 and 110. Oh, okay, okay. So Mr. X probably died because I didn't just ignore him once. I ignored him twice. And there we go, room 112 again. I do think 112 is probably the haunted one. I pressed the intercom button on room 108. We are not going to ignore Mr. X this time. Good evening, sir. It's Dr. Leah. What's going on in there? A long, unsettling silence followed, broken only by the humming of ventilators. I was about to repeat myself when a garbled voice came through the speaker. She's inside me. His voice cracking with pain and something else. Fear, maybe? Her hands scratching, trying to get out. I swallowed hard, trying to keep my tone professional. Sir, there's nothing under your skin. You're just experiencing a symptom of your condition. No, no, no. His voice was louder now, frantic. I could hear the sound of him thrashing in his bed, the bed frame creaking under the force. You don't understand. It's her nails. I can feel them. I love the creepy text effects. Digging. Sir, just breathe, okay? I'm coming in to check on you, but you have to stay still, alright? No reply, just a wheezing laugh crackled through the intercom, making the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. I reached the door to room 108, bringing the sedatives with me. Suddenly, everything was eerily quiet. Groggily, I glanced down the hallway, hoping to ask for assistance from Satria or the nurse, but I was alone. I took a deep breath, steeling myself as I pushed open the door to room 108. Gasp. I should have let Satria take this one. Mr. X was thrashing violently, face contorted in agony. His hands were clawing at his own skin, scratches covering his arms where he tried to dig out whatever he believed was inside him. Help, please. Please get her out. I can't take it anymore. Gulp. I'm just going to sedate you, sir. It'll help with the pain. But you have to let go, alright? As I reached for a syringe, he grabbed my wrist with surprising strength. Let go? Let go? She's in me! Her nails, they're cutting through. She's going to crawl out of me and into you. She'll tear us all apart. His grip tightened, and for a moment, I could almost feel it. A sharp, cold scratch just beneath my own skin, like nails dragging through flesh. My stomach turned, but I forced myself to stay calm. I had to. It was just a delusion. It's just the drugs. It's just paranoia. I injected the sedative into his IV, and Mr. X's breathing slowed, his thrashing subsiding as the sedative took effect. But even as his eyes fluttered shut, he kept whispering to himself. She's coming. Yeah, okay. I backed out of the room, trying to calm my trembling hands. But then, as I started down the hallway, something stopped me in my tracks. It was faint at first, a soft, melodic hum that seemed to drift through the stillness. Who the heck is singing at this hour? I paused, my ears straining to catch it. The sound grew clearer and my blood ran cold. A Poseidon was singing. Okay. Maybe I should actually, look up what that means. Because it's clearly important, and because it's been mentioned at least 3 times. And maybe it'll tell me this time. Indonesian female solo singer who sings with a gamelan. What's that? A gamelan. Gamelan is the traditional ensemble music of the Javanese, Sudanese, and Balinese peoples of Indonesia, made up predominantly of percussive instruments. Okay. Her voice was haunting, laced with a sorrow that seeped into my bones. And as if that wasn't enough, there was a distant clink of a gamelan orchestra began to play with her. The hell's going on? It was coming from Mr. X's room. It couldn't be from his phone or TV. The Poseidon's voice was so close, it was like she was standing right behind me, singing directly into my ear. And hi! Hello! Fun game! Already died. Well, already let one of my patients die. But that's okay. We're trying again and not ignoring Mr. X this time. I half expected to feel her cold breath on my neck. She's coming. And then, just like that, the music cut off. Everything fell into a silence so thick it was suffocating. Maybe I've had too much coffee. That's it. I rushed back into the nurse station, trying to shake off whatever just happened. I stood at the nurse's station again when the bells for room 101, 103, and 104 all started ringing at once. Not this again. Room 103 was empty, completely and utterly empty. So why the hell was the bell ringing? And 104 had Mrs. Salvina, who was unconscious and paraplegic. She couldn't ring the bell even if she wanted to. I glanced at the nurse, who was still standing there, eerily mute, as if the chaos around us didn't even register. What the hell is going on with this night shift? Satria, my ever-reliable senior, just let out a sarcastic laugh. Well, well, seems like there's a welcome party for you. Right. I think I'm gonna do this one again. For the reasons of the other rooms were empty and lady on life support, who probably wasn't actually ringing the bell. I pressed the intercom button on room 101, half expecting something out of a horror movie to greet me. This scene makes a lot more sense since I didn't accidentally not choose a room in time last time. So now her like, oh, I'm worried I'm gonna see something strange again makes a lot more sense. Instead, Angela's mother's voice crackled through the speaker. Doctor, Angela's IV drip is running out. Could you come and replace it? I'll be right there. Relieved that it was something straightforward, finally, I grabbed a fresh IV bag and made my way to the room. But as soon as I walked in, the atmosphere felt off. Not again. Angela's mother, Mrs. Liam, was standing by the window, her expression a mix of worry and something else I couldn't quite describe. Her daughter seemed to be asleep peacefully in her bed. Excuse me, Mrs. Liam. I'm Dr. Leo. I'll be replacing your daughter's IV drip. Doctor, wait. I'm sorry to trouble you, but there's been knocking on the window. It's been happening for a while now. But when I look, there's no one there. Probably just the wind, ma'am? She just looked back at me. Or I could check for you. I moved to the window, opening the curtain and peering out into the darkness. Nothing. Just the faint reflection of the room behind me and the dark sky behind. I shook the latch just to be sure, and it was securely locked. It's safe, ma'am. Nothing out there. She just gave me an uneasy smile. As I started to replace the IV drip, something about her tugged at the back of my mind. I felt like I'd seen her before. Are you on social media or something, Mrs. Liam? Your surname is familiar. Yes. Yes, I'm a Tic Tac model. Veronica Liam. I see. She didn't respond, just turned back to the window. She was holding her left wrist, and for a moment, I thought I saw some bruising marks on them. As I finished up with the IV, the unease in the room seemed to thicken. Seems like I shouldn't have asked. Just press the bell if you need anything else. Angela's mom nodded again, but her gaze remained fixed on the window. It's as if she was waiting for something or someone that wasn't there. I quickly left the room, sighing to myself. Feeling thirsty, I wandered into the doctor's lounge. Satria was already there, leaning against the counter while stirring 2 cups of coffee. He handed me one with a half smirk. Thanks. Hang in there, kid. This is just your first shift. This is what I signed up for. Easy for you to say. You're one of the blue bloods, aren't you? Everyone knows about you. What was it? Mom's a pediatrician, dad's a neurosurgeon. Yeah, but that doesn't mean it's a walk in the park. They're always comparing me to them, telling me how much harder I need to work. I don't even want to be a doctor anyway. Still, must be nice, though, having parents who made things so much easier. Wish I had that kind of leg up. My family put everything into getting me here. Now it's on me to make sure it's worth it. I looked at him, really looked, and for a second, I caught a glimpse of the weight he carried. Well, I guess we're both just trying not to mess it up. Like I did. At least once. Yeah, something like that. I leaned back, taking a longer sip of the coffee, letting the silence sit for a bit. So, why'd you decide to be a doctor? Honestly, for my parents. It's not like I had some big passion for it or anything. They're not well off and, well, it felt like the only way to give back. Really? Yeah, I mean, they sacrificed so much to get me here. It's on me to make it count. Plus, they're not going to be able to help my sister much longer. I figured I could chip in with her uni loans when I'm out of residency, you know? That's heavy. Yeah, well, not like I can quit now. But why emergency medicine? Of all the specialties, you chose the one where people are literally running in and out nonstop. I didn't exactly choose it. It was the only one available through the scholarship I got. I had to take what I could get. Oh, so this isn't your first choice? I mean, it's fine. I don't hate it or anything. But if I'm being honest, it was never really about what I wanted. It was just about making sure I could get through med school without bankrupting my parents. Satria stretched a bit before grabbing his things. Anyway, I better get back. The nurse seems inexperienced. I'm laughing because, you know, up till this point, she doesn't just seem inexperienced, she seems dead. Or undead. Just before he left, he paused at the doorway and looked back at me. Residency's brutal, kid. There's still time to leave if you don't want to be here. Hang in there, okay? Before I could respond, he gave me a small smile and disappeared down the hall. Ring! Okay. So this time... Last time I accidentally went to one of the empty rooms, I think. I guess I'll read this. The clock struck midnight, and the ICU erupted into chaos. Every damn bell in the intercom rang out like crazy. I turned to Satria, his face just as pale as mine. What's happening? I have no freaking idea. It's like the whole damn place is losing it. The ringing bells drowned out our voices, and I was struggling to speak. I felt the urge to run, but from what? From our helpless patients? Then I noticed the nurse, the one who hadn't spoken a word since we started. Is this a drill? Oh, so she was human after all. Thank God. I still think this is a different nurse than the one we saw earlier. A drill at this goddamn hour? The nurse took a step back, looking ready to faint. I don't know. I'm a new employee too. Nobody told me about this. Leah, just press the button. Huh? Just answer any intercom. Maybe it'll stop? Roger that. So I wonder if I went to, I pressed the intercom for room 108. Like, I'm really trying to make sure the nurse is you. Fair. I pressed the intercom for room 108, and the sound of Mr. X rushing immediately filled the speaker. So I'm trying not to ignore Mr. X this time, because last time I forgot which rooms belonged to which patients, and I ignored Mr. X until he threw himself out a window. So trying real hard not to ignore him this time. His voice, even more frantic and broken than before, cut through the noise. She's out! Pardon? She's out, but I can still hear her. She's here. Help! Sir, I'll be there in a... Ah! Sir? You hear too, don't you, doctor? As I listened, something else crept in. Something familiar. A Piscindon song, soft at first, like a lullaby from hell, getting louder and closer with each second. The song drowned out Mr. X's screaming. The hairs on my neck stood on end as her voice wound through the static. It inched closer and closer, until it felt like she was right here in the nurse station, instead of Mr. X's room. I can't do this alone. I bolted towards room 101, dragging the new nurse with me, despite her protests. The eerie wails from Mr. X still echoed in my ears as we rushed down the dimly lit hallway. When we burst into the room, the bed was empty. The song had also stopped. Sir? I looked to the window, but it seemed like it was jammed shut. Well, hopefully he didn't throw himself out of it this time. Over there! The nurse pointed at Mr. X, cowering under the bed, his wide eyes glinting with terror. Sir, what are you doing under there? I knelt down, trying to see him better. Before I could get an answer, the nurse beside me let out a blood-curdling scream. She stumbled back, clutching her foot, eyes wide with fear. Doctor, something's scratching me. It's under the floor, scratching me. A cold chill ran down my spine. The scratching, that horrible feeling from earlier was back, and it wasn't just in my head. The nurse felt it too. Whatever was down there, it wasn't done with us yet. But helping Mr. X came first. I had to sedate him. Mr. X was still trembling under the bed, his eyes darting around like he was seeing something I couldn't. I injected the sedative into his arm, trying to ignore everything else, while the nurse cowered behind me. Just breathe. His eyes fluttered closed as the drug took effect. I leaned towards the nurse. Are you okay? My mom said being a nurse is an honorable profession. I'm just here for the paycheck. It's okay. He's asleep. Let's get out. But as I turned to leave, the silence was shattered by that haunting sound again. I'm so sorry that I am pronouncing this wrong in about a dozen different ways. Poseidon's song. I didn't wait to see what would happen next. Let's go already. Just leave him with the creepy singing lady, sure. Oh no. The nurse grabbed me by the arm. We bolted out of the room, the song echoing behind us like it was chasing us down the hallway as we fled back to the nurse's station. I didn't even realize that the corridor had somehow become even darker than before. For sure, for sure. The nurse. Like, please just get me out of here. I just here for the paycheck. We didn't stop until we were back in the dim safety of the station, gasping for air. The song had faded, but whatever was happening in room 108, it was far from over. Satria was there. He raised an eyebrow when he saw us running, but didn't ask anything. Satria, do you know anything about Mr. X's background? I mean, besides the obvious nightmare we just dealt with? Satria leaned back, his eyes fixed at the ceiling. There's a rumor that he used to be filthy rich. But, you know, classic tale, lost everything. Bad investments, gambling, drug addiction, who knows? Really? How come? When they found him, he had this ridiculously expensive watch on him. Like, the kind that could pay off a car. No one's sure if he stole it or if it was his, but it's the only thing he had left. We keep hearing a gamelan song and someone singing. Satria didn't even blink, just shrugged with that exasperating nonchalance. Like, yeah, obviously. Maybe it's a vengeful lover haunting him, or his ex-wife, who knows? Or maybe the music's just in his head, and now it's in yours, too. There's no way. Either way, it's absolutely none of our business. Yeah, for sure. He's just like, yeah, sure. I couldn't tell if he was being serious or just messing with us, but either way, it did nothing to calm the two of us. This is way above my pay grade. And I'm not even getting paid. Satria just smiled, that infuriatingly calm smile, and wordlessly reached to the counter and poured 2 cups of tea. He handed one to the nurse and one to me. Here, drink up. It'll calm your nerves. The nurse and I exchanged a glance, still too rattled to do anything. Finally, I took a sip anyway, trying to shake off my doubts and fear. The nurse did the same. If Satria could be this relaxed, maybe we could survive the rest of the night. Or maybe he was just as crazy as this place. I definitely still think there's something to the theory that, because like everyone else, they've got like the breathing animation. He doesn't. He's not breathing. He's the real terror here. 3 bells rang out at once. Room 108, room 101, and room 105. Room 105 is empty, according to my list. I groaned. Room 108 was Mr. X, who is convinced someone was crawling under his skin. And I'm inclined to believe that he's not making it. Room 101, Angela and her TikTok famous mom with a mysterious knocking. Room 105, empty. Perfect. I really don't want to deal with him again, but I probably should. I pressed the intercom for room 108, and something was different. This time, his voice was calm. It's over, Doc. I rushed to his room. When I got there, my stomach dropped. Oh no, this is not good. Mr. X had disconnected all of his equipment, the monitors flatlining behind him. He stood by the window, trying to pry it open, hands trembling with determination. Sir, what are you doing? He didn't answer, just kept fumbling with the window latch like a possessed man. The room felt colder, heavier, and then I heard it. The Poseidon? I don't know. Might just start calling this the singer lady. The singer lady started singing again. The haunting melody slithered through the air, growing louder. And just like that, she appeared. Her figure materializing in the room, moving closer with every note. Why do I feel like I'm gonna die here? She was beautiful in the most unsettling way. Her smile wide, her eyes dark and empty. Mr. X whipped around, pointing at her with a trembling hand. You're dead. This isn't real. You're not real. But the woman only smiled wider. A slow, creeping smile that spread to her ears, contorting her face into something grotesque and inhuman. Her eyes locked onto him, and the air in the room felt like it was being sucked out. No! This isn't real! The woman stepped closer, still singing. She raised a hand toward him, her fingers curling like she was about to claim him. And she whispered, Gandindra. Fatima? Her smile widened even further, condensed with malice and dripping with venom. Before I could react, her hands shot out, ripping around his throat. Mr. Ganendra's eyes bulged as he gasped for air, his hands clawing frantically at her grip. I don't think my poor little character is equipped to handle this situation. Like, it is a really, really good CG, but I can just imagine, this poor girl who is, she's just trying to get through school for her parents' sake, and she's just like, I am so unprepared for this. So stop. There's no protocol for what happens if my patient is being murdered by a creepy ghost lady. I screamed, rushing forward, trying to pull her off him. But as I grabbed her, she turned, face twisting into something horrific. Her beautiful features morphed into a monstrous figure. Her eyes were now black pits, mouth too wide for her face with sharp, jagged teeth. The air grew thick with the stench of decay. I am not going to try to pronounce that, but I understand she's speaking in a foreign language. Reminds me of like in shows, they have the subtitles, they're just like, foreign language here. She tightened her grip around his throat, and Ganendra's face turned into a sickening shade of blue. Nice. Nice. I did mention that at the beginning of the stream, that, like, I believe the creator said that it was based on real life. Real experiences, anyway. I yanked at her arms, but it was like trying to move a large rock. Mr. Ganendra's choked gasps filled the room, his eyes begging for mercy, but the ghost, Fatima, or whatever she had become, only laughed. I fumbled for the intercom, my hands shaking, and pressed the button, barely managing to croak out the words. Help! Anybody! Within moments, Satria burst into the room, prayer beads in one hand and a small pouch of salt in the other. Oh, now he's breathing. Interesting. Interesting. And the fact that he just has prayer beads on hand. Without a word, he threw the salt across the room, the grains catching in the air like tiny sparks. The ghost woman, Fatima, screeched, an ear-piercing wail that made my skin crawl. Her monstrous figure twisted and contorted, as if the very air was burning her. With one last deafening shriek, she vanished, leaving behind nothing but an icy chill in the room. Mr. Ganendra slumped to the floor, gasping for breath, his body trembling. Great. He's just... yeah, I'm a fan. It's just like so... Yep, just another day. Satria, unfazed, tucked the prayer beads back into his pocket, wiping his hands on his scrubs like he'd just taken out the trash. I rushed to Mr. Ganendra's side as Satria administered his meds, and he was already calming down once more. We carried him back to his bed. Satria, she said some stuff. Something, What does that even mean? Satria's face darkened, his usual sarcasm replaced by a grim seriousness. Probably, you offered me up, now you have to pay the price. That woman, she might have been a tumbal, a sacrifice in some kind of ritual. Sacrifice? She was my girlfriend. I used her for a ritual to get rich. Dude. I didn't think she'd come back. You killed your girlfriend to get rich? Dude. My blood ran cold. This wasn't just a ghost. This was revenge. Now everything is going wrong. I've lost everything. Just leave me alone. I don't need all of those injections. Satria just shook his head. It's our job to treat you, sir. Whatever you did in the past, you need to atone for it. Without waiting for an argument, Satria quickly administered a sedative. Mr. Ganendra's eyelids fluttered as he drifted off into unconsciousness. Is that a thing the doctor should be saying to a patient? Like, you need to atone. You've got a lot more to answer for when you wake up. As we stepped out of the room, I couldn't shake the weight of what just happened. I never thought something like that still exists in this day and age. His own girlfriend. What kind of person does that? That's a good question. People will do anything for money. I mean, to an extent, I don't think most people would sacrifice their girlfriend in a creepy ritual for money, though. Like, I don't know. That feels like going a little far. Curious, I pulled out my phone and Googled Ganinja's name. What I found sent chills down my spine. He was some sort of CEO for a startup, living the high life. I stumbled upon his social media, filled with pictures of him and a woman named Fatima. They looked so happy. Well, before everything went south, that is. It felt wrong to see those smiling faces now, knowing what happened. This dude had it all. I can't believe it. Yep, now he's left to atone for his mistakes. Hey, he lived! Oh no! The bells ring again! Oh boy, oh boy. I pressed the intercom button on room 101, and it was Mrs. Liam again. Her voice sounded even more urgent. Are there multiple supernatural things going on here? Because this seems like the same scene with the rapping on the window. Yeah. Dr. Leah, there's knocking again. It's fast, like someone's trying to get in. Please, can you come? Of course there is. It does make sense. There's definitely more mysteries here to figure out for sure. When I entered, the room was dim, with just the faint glow of the monitoring equipment. Mrs. Veronica Liam was sitting beside Angela's bed, her face even paler than the last time I saw her. Doctor, I'm sorry for bothering you, but it's been happening more frequently. The knocking. It's almost like it's demanding to be let in. As if on cue, the sound started again. Sharp, rapid knocks that seemed to rattle the window. I took a deep breath and went to the window. Here we go again! I pulled it open, half expecting to see something or someone on the other side. Once again, there was nothing. The knocking had stopped immediately as well. It's fine, ma'am. There's nothing out there. Mrs. Liam shook her head, her eyes welling up with tears. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm losing it. I've been so stressed out. My baby, I wasn't there for her. My job, with all the pressures on social media, kept me too busy. I abandoned her when she needed me most. Maybe it's just my guilt haunting me. For a moment, I wasn't sure what to say. An ICU where people died and went to critical condition seemed to feed on fear and guilt, twisting it into something that could reach out and touch you in the dark. That's not ominous at all. Ominous phrasing, that is. What's important is you're here by her side during this critical time, ma'am. She nodded, but her expression didn't change. The knocks had stopped, but the unease lingered. After excusing myself from room 101, I walked back to the nurse's station. The nurse was sitting there alone, tapping her pen on the desk, looking more bored than anything else. When she saw me approach, her eyes lit up. I wondered if she wanted to ask something about Mrs. Liam. You know Mrs. Liam? Who doesn't? She leaned in closer, about to spill some tea. Word is that Veronica Liam was having an affair with some famous actor, big name in the industry. Her husband found out, and that's why he's nowhere to be seen. Left her to deal with everything on her own, even his own kid. Can you believe that? Oh, so that's why he's not here? Yep. Rumor has it this whole thing was a huge scandal, but they kept it hush-hush because, you know, reputation and all that. But everyone in the know, well, they know. And how do you know? I felt a sudden playful smack on the back of my head and turned around to see Satria grinning like a mischievous kid. No more gossiping on the job, Dr. Leah. You're supposed to be the professional here, or I'll tell on you. I rolled my eyes, rubbing the spot where he bonked me. Yes, sir. I was just, you know, gathering intel. Sure, let's call it that. He chuckled as he strolled down the hallway, disappearing into the shadows. Try to keep it classy, okay? The bells ring again. I haven't talked to that guy yet. I pressed the intercom button on room 110. I remember it being Mr. Joko Emiliano's room, the elderly man who'd recently had his leg amputated. Satria said he was one of the more stable patients, or at least he had been. Hello? His wife's voice crackled through the speaker, soft but urgent. Excuse me, nurse? My husband has a fever. He's not resting well. I'll be right there. I made my way to room 110. As I entered, the first thing I noticed was how warm the room felt. Stuffy, almost. Mr. Muliano was in bed, his face flushed and profusely sweating. He was asleep, but his body was restless, twitching as if something was bothering him, even in his dreams. She's so gray. She looks dead. Or undead. Santa Claus. Yeah, he does kind of look like Santa Claus. Even outside though, like, compare her skin tone to his, like, she seriously looks like she just died, like, sitting up. Good evening, ma'am. I'm Dr. Leah. May I check Mr. Miliano's temperature? Please, go ahead, doctor. I checked his temperature. Definitely a fever. Nothing too alarming, but enough to need attention. I reached into my pocket and pulled out a vial of paracetamol? Something medical. Preparing to administer it. This will get the fever under control. As I injected the medicine to his IV, I felt the presence of his wife hovering next to me. Mrs. Miliano seemed like a sweet, elderly woman, the kind who reminded you of homemade cookies and knitting by the fireplace. But tonight, something felt off. Maybe it was just my imagination, though. Thank you, doctor. I glanced up, meeting her eyes. She was smiling, a kind, grandmotherly smile, but there was something strange behind it that I couldn't quite put my finger on. Well, maybe she's just worried about her husband. Of course. He should get better soon. You're very kind, doctor. We're so grateful for everything you're doing. Just doing my job, ma'am. Is there anything else you need? No. He's tired, dear. So very tired. Pardon? She didn't respond immediately. Instead, she just kept that unnerving smile fixed on me, her eyes boring into mine. I also, like, they mentioned how it's super hot and stuffy in here. Is she not gonna be like, would you like me to turn on the air conditioner? Or open the window or something? Just don't jump out the window, please. I checked Mr. Miliano's vitals one last time, my hands shaking slightly. His fever was starting to come down, and he seemed to be slipping into a more peaceful sleep. But the room still felt too suffocating. Yeah, I was about to say. And Mrs. Miliano kept smiling, never once moving. Yeah, it's not creepy at all. You should be fine for now. Just let me know if anything changes. Mrs. Miliano said nothing, just nodding silently as I turned to leave. I could feel her gaze burning into my back, that eerie smile still hanging in the air. Aha! The door clicked shut behind me, and I exhaled a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. What is wrong with my first shift? I rushed back into the nurse's station, trying to shake off whatever just happened. The bells ring again. Oh gosh. Oh gosh. I haven't talked to her yet either. I pressed the intercom button for room 104 and was greeted by a loud crash, the unmistakable sound of something shattering on the floor. Hello? Mr. Salvina? No answer. I quickly rushed to room 104. I pushed the door open and the room was dark. As I turned on the lights, I saw a cup of tea laying in pieces. I was, distracted by, like, you know, the dark hospital room is, like, dark and grungy and shattered windows and shattered monitor, and then turn on the lights. Oh, everything's fine. Everything's as expected. There was no one else in the room but Mrs. Salvina, who was unconscious in her bed, oblivious to the mess. Jesus Christ, seriously? I crouched down to inspect the shards of glass, looking for any sign of how the cup had ended up on the floor. There was no obvious cause. No one to knock it over, no sudden movement that could have sent it crashing. It's as if it had just decided to jump off the table with sheer spite. Sigh. Okay, focus. It's just a cup. Just a cup. Of course, there was no cleaning service in sight, which meant I was the one in charge of cleaning it. As I moved to clean up the mess, I felt a shiver run down my spine. I couldn't help but glance at the window, half expecting to see something or someone watching me from outside. And to Mrs. Salvina, thinking she could just jolt awake at any moment. Hold it together, Leah. I quickly gathered the pieces of the cup and turned to leave. But before I could reach for the door, I thought I heard a faint whisper. Like a breath of sound, like a warning. Aha! I froze, my heart racing as I glanced back at Mrs. Salvina. She remained still, her breathing steady but shallow. As if this night couldn't get any weirder. I quickly left the room, huffing to myself. The bells ring again. The bells! The bells! I pressed the intercom button on room 110. Room 110, what's going on? My husband is in pain, doctor. Please come immediately. Oh no! I hurried to room 110. Mr. Muliano lay in bed, his face contorted in agony, beads of sweat glistening on his forehead. He's not fully conscious yet. I rushed to his side and quickly checked his vitals. Hang in there, sir. I'm going to give you something for the pain. Oh, thank goodness you arrived quickly. Yes, ma'am. As I administered the medication, I noticed something. Mr. Muliano stood at the foot of the bed, a serene smile on her face. But her feet weren't touching the ground. I wanted to scream, but my body froze and my hand was still administering the meds. I quickly finished my job and god damn it, the syringe fell to the floor. As I bent down to retrieve it, I was face to face with her feet. Or, the lack thereof. I wasn't just dreaming. She wasn't just standing there. She was floating. The meds are in his system now. He should be alright. I'm just gonna go now. Her smile widened. Did you leave because you're done? Or because you've noticed me? The room felt a lot colder, and shadows deepened in the corner as if they were reaching out to grasp me. Somehow there were cracks in the wall. I couldn't move a muscle. Mrs. Muliano, I think you should... Do you see me? Panic surged through me, and I turned to the door, desperate to escape. I have to go. With one last frantic glance at Mr. Muliano, whose pained expression mirrored my own horror, I bolted from the room and slammed the door shut behind me. As I stumbled back into the oddly darkened hallway, I suddenly heard it. A soft, whispering voice that sent chills racing down my spine. Mrs. Muliano. Oh my gosh! You should know. One of you is just like me. I missed that text. But that's okay. The darkness hides secrets, my dear. One of you is pretending to be alive, just like I once was. Yep. I slowly shuffled back towards the nurse's station, trembling. Who could it be? The nurse? Satria? I'm alive, aren't I? I don't know. It's questionable. Or maybe Mrs. Muliano was just trying to scare me. She didn't have feet. She was floating in midair. And you already saw the creepy singer lady, so come on now. Come on now. We're past the point of pretending everything's normal. The bells ring again. I haven't talked to 101 in a while. I pressed the intercom for room 101, already bracing myself. Mrs. Liam came through, her voice panicked. Doctor, the knocking, it's back. It's so loud now and it sounds angry. Please help. I'm on my way. I grabbed my stethoscope, not sure what it what good it would do against angry spirits, and headed down the hallway. What was I supposed to do? Quietly ask the ghost to not quiet her? When I entered room 101, Mrs. Liam was huddled in the corner, trembling, her fingers shakily pointing at the window. There. I walked to the window, steeling myself for another round of absolutely nothing. Oh my gosh. A pale face shot up from the darkness outside. A child's face, except there were no eyes. You are evil. I never thought about jump scares in a visual novel, but wow, here we are. Just empty, hollow sockets staring right at me. I gasped, nearly tripping over myself as I stumbled backward. Mrs. Liam was sobbing in the corner. Angela shifted in her sleep, her small body twitching under the sheets, groaning as if in pain. My heart was still racing from the eyeless kid at the window, but it got worse when I heard it. Soft, eerie laughter. Angela, come play with me. I froze. Come on, Angela. Don't you want to play? I glanced at Angela. Her groans were getting louder, like she was trying to escape something in her sleep. Angela, come play. Just let go. Don't let go, Angela. Don't do it. Then I could see it. A faint shimmering light pulling away from Angela. Her soul rising like a wisp of smoke, drawn toward the ghost kid. That's not good. Don't do it. Don't go towards the light. No. Give her back. Get away from her. I'm half expecting the, like, Angela dies screen to pop up. Like, you screwed up. You let her die. You ignored her too much. Give her back. Get away from her. But Angela's mother, still huddled in the corner, was oblivious to whatever was happening to Angela. She just stared at the ghost kid, her face twisted in fear, not even realizing the danger her daughter was in. Angela, fight it! You can't go with him. What's happening? The ghost kid turned, grinning wider, his eyeless sockets boring into me. She wants to play, just like I do. Angela's soul followed the ghost kid, and the ghost kid laughed. He pointed at Mrs. Liam. She doesn't love you. You never had time for her. Angela. Angela's better off dead, so you can live a new life with that uncle. The ghost kid howled, his laughter ringing in the air. Mrs. Liam, help her! Help Angela! I tried to prevent them from getting out of the room, but the darkness around us thickened. I could feel it wrapping around me, pulling me back. I am so sorry, dear. You don't get to say that now, Mom. You never cared about me. You were too busy with your stupid modeling career. See, I'm right, aren't I? I waited for you. I thought you'd love me enough to come back, but you didn't. I didn't know. I was wrong. Please, Angela, come back to me. Angela shook her head, tears streaming from her empty eye sockets. It's too late for that. You'll never understand. I wanted you to care. Angela likes me more. We'll be best buddies. We can play forever and ever. No more staying at home alone, just fun and games with me. For a moment, I could see Angela hesitating, looking back at her mother. The ghost kid jumped in, his cackles screeching like nails on a chalkboard. Your mom doesn't love you. She only cares about herself. Come with me, Angela. We can have so much fun together. Mrs. Liam was a mess of tears and desperation. No, Angela, please. I love you. I want you back. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. I see what you mean. Yeah. Choice. Oh my gosh. I would save if I could. Oh my gosh. I feel like if I just tell her, oh yeah, your mother loves you, it kind of feels empty. But I also don't actually know what the bruises are, right? Or where she got them. And so, like, this choice could really backfire. But let's do it, because I want to know, I want to know the truth. Angela, your mom has suffered enough. Look at this. I grabbed Mrs. Liam's hand and showed her all the bruises she had. Angela stared in horror, not knowing what her mother had gone through. You need to go back to your body, to your mom. You can't just leave her like this. Angela's eyes flickered with a moment of hesitation, but the ghost kid tugged on her hand, whispering something in her ear. She looked at her mom one last time. I'm sorry, Mommy. I didn't know. Daddy beat you up, didn't he? And yet you stayed with him because of me. You can be free now. Free from Daddy and from me. Oh no. Oh no. So now I wonder, you know, was the other choice better? Or would she have died either way, but at least this way she was, like, nice about it? I guess I'll have to play again to find out. With that, Angela turned and walked away with the ghost kid. Her form fading into the darkness as her body in the bed began to tremble. Yeah. Oh no! As if you didn't know it was gonna happen. That's okay. That's okay. Mistakes were made. The monitors were beeping as her vitals plummeted. Panic surged through me as I rushed to Angela's bedside and grabbed the intercom. Code Blue! Satria! Nurse! Satria and the nurse came running into the room, their faces grim as they saw Angela's lifeless body. We worked quickly, performing chest compressions, giving her oxygen, everything we could to bring her back. But deep down, I knew it was hopeless. Angela's soul had already left. Yep. I'm sorry, ma'am. Time of death. Mrs. Liam crumpled to the floor, sobbing uncontrollably. Angela's voice echoed in the room, so soft I almost thought I imagined it. I love you, Mom. Please be free. I mean, like, it's sad the kid died, but you know, terribly sad. But it still feels like a, I don't know, bittersweet. Not sure what you want to call that. I don't think bittersweet is even the right term, but you know, no, could have been worse. At least she wasn't like, I hate you, Mom. She was like, you know, you've been through so much. You deserve to be free. But like, the idea that you have to die to set your mother free from you is just really depressing, right? I stumbled out of Angela's room, my hands shaking at the weight of shaking as the weight of everything finally hit me. I knew that being a doctor meant we'd see countless deaths, but I couldn't stop my tears from flowing after experiencing the events that transpired tonight firsthand. All I could hear was Angela's voice, her final words to her mom, the sound of the flatline ringing in my ears. This isn't happening. Poor Angela. I heard footsteps approaching, and before I could gather myself, I felt a hand rest gently on my shoulder. Satria. You did your best, kid. I saw her leave. I saw the ghost child. I couldn't do anything. She's gone, just like that. Comes with a job. Sometimes, no matter how hard we try, some things are just out of our control. We're doctors, not gods. But she was just a kid. I know. You did everything you could. More than most would. Let that be enough. For once, there was no sarcasm from him, just a quiet understanding. Where was he with his little prayer beads to chase the ghost kid away? Like, dude, give me some of those. And somehow that made me cry even harder. Satria stood there, silent, letting me cry it out. No pressure. Just there. Angela dies. Yep. It was finally 6 a.m., the end of my first grueling night shift. I was ready to head home, barely able to keep my eyes open, when I noticed Satria standing by the exit. His silhouette framed by the morning sun, almost different somehow. He waved me over with a faint smile. Yo, kid, thanks for everything. Sure? I didn't do much. Yeah, but still, thanks. Okay, you sound like you're saying goodbye. There are still more shifts in the future. Nah, you won't see me again after today. Take care of yourself, alright? Before I could ask what he meant, he gave me a final wave, stepping into the sunlight. And then, just like that, he was gone. No footsteps fading, no doors closing, just gone. Angela actually can live. Good to know, good to know. I imagine, like, you know, we didn't see resolutions to the other two thingies either, so, yeah. I imagine there's plenty more content that I haven't seen. And yeah, I'm sure each of the patients can probably die or live, depending on your choices. It's almost like being a doctor means having people's lives in your hands. No pressure, though, you know? I stood there, my mind spinning. Had I imagined it? The night had been long, sure, but this felt strange. Everything can wait later. For now, bed. As I collapsed onto my couch, still thinking about Satria's strange words, I mindlessly scrolled through my phone. That's when I saw it. Satria Damanik, medical resident, dies in a single motorcycle accident at 7 p.m. last night. Wait a minute. But we were working together at 9 p.m., weren't we? I feel good about that. He was still alive then, right? I scrolled through the comments, heart pounding. People were mourning him, talking about how kind he was, etc. But if he died last night, then who was with me on the shift? A chill crept up my spine as I replayed our final conversation in my mind. His calm words, the way he disappeared into the sunlight. Was it real? Had I just worked an entire shift with Satria's ghost? I leaned back and closed my eyes, whispering a solemn prayer for Satria. For his peace and his journey, wherever it was now taking him. Satria had worked so hard only to be lost to the very grind he had struggled against. I sighed, staring out into the early morning light, unsure of what the future would bring. I wondered if I would end up like him. I hope not. I hope this is a wake-up call. Remember to bring prayer reeds. And don't ride motorcycles. One thing was certain, though, I would never forget him. And I would never forget this odd night shift at the ICU. Normal ending. Mr. X Epilogue. I sat on my couch watching TV. It had been a few weeks since Mr. X, or Ganendra, had been released from the hospital. The news had reported his imprisonment for drug trafficking, and I've never heard about him since. Wait, what's this? He died again! In a tragic development, Ganendra Sanjaya was found dead in his prison cell earlier today. The cause of death is currently unknown, but sources say there was a woman's handprint around his neck when his body was discovered. Apparently, yo, she is not happy. They sacrificed her for wealth. What a surprise. I felt a chill run down my spine. Fatima. Had she truly claimed him in the end? The screen displayed a photo of Mr. X alongside a beautiful woman. The anchor continued, detailing how Ganendra's fall from grace had shocked the community. People had once admired him as a successful CEO, and no one knew how he became a drug addict. Still, he had made choices that led him down this path, and it was hard to pity someone who hurt his girlfriend for wealth. Did Fatima find him at last, reclaiming what she had lost? Or was it a manifestation of his guilt? I guess I would never know. Nice. Well, that was a decent ending as opposed to being cut short because the guy threw himself out a window. So I'll call it good. I enjoyed it. I'm still interested to see how some of the other mysteries perhaps play out. Like, we really didn't see much of the life support lady. And then, you know, trying to see if I could not kill Angela. Or not convince her to kill herself. Sorry, kid. Didn't mean that. Nice, nice. And I guess we found out who's the dead one on shift. Who's the ghost? I did suspect it was Satria at first, and then I was like, well, but there's something strange with this nurse lady too. It was good. It was good. I did like that ending about Satria. Well, I didn't like that he died, but you know. It was kind of his spirit to help me on the shift anyway. If it weren't for him, man, it would have been hard. And also a little sad that like he died and still felt the need to go to work. like his soul couldn't be satisfied until he finished his job. Yeah, the grind. Yep. Yep. What a world we live in. Alright, well, I think that is it for this stream. I really enjoyed it. Thank you, Azure, for popping in and keeping me company. It was fun. Next week, I think I have planned to play Shut-In Vampire. And then the week after that, I am not sure yet. So, if you have other recommendations for Spooktober games to play, let me know in the comments. And thanks for watching.